I'm super pumped to be here, to be honest. So this is really exciting. I was actually involved in the one of the .NET Conf focus events before on Xamarin, but I was talking about Xamarin for ASP.NET Core developers. But you were actually the one that asked me to speak, James, at that event. So this is super cool that you get to hand over to me today. So I'm really excited. So as you mentioned, we're going to be talking about mobile databases. And I'm going to take you, hopefully, from zero to mobile database hero in 30 minutes. I'm Luce Carter. You can catch me on Twitter at LuceCarter1. And I'm a developer advocate at MongoDB. So I really live and breathe databases. Before I get started, though, I want to tell you a story. And this is the story of how I was actually inspired to give this talk and what made me think about putting this talk together. And like many good things in a developer life, it all started with a tweet. Back in June, I sent out a tweet that said, developers of Twitter, when someone says mobile database to you, what pops into your head? Now, as I mentioned, I'm a developer advocate at MongoDB, but in fact, very specifically, I work on the content team. And day to day, my job is to put together articles and tutorials for our .com website and realm.io, where we talk about mobile databases and anything you could think of. But when we do our content for .com and Realm, it's driven by an SEO initiative where we have third-party agencies that come to us and give us the keywords and a brief that just helps us make sure that we write the best content for you. But when I was writing this mobile databases article, some of the keywords that popped up, like data lake and data warehouse, I was a bit like, when I'm writing a mobile database article, data lake and data warehouse is not what pops into my head. So I thought, hey, I know, I'll ask Twitter. And those of you watching, you're probably having the same situation where you're sat there and you've got some words pop into your head. So I bet you that responses are going to be very similar to what you're going to see here. We've got SQLite, Oliver added sync issues, SQLite, SQLite PCL, and obviously Proclarum, aka Frank Kruger, absolute legend, and his SQLite.NET libraries that we've all known and loved. And so, as you can see, there's a bit of a pattern here. And do you know what? Actually, I can kind of understand the pattern, because if we take a step back to look at my own history with databases, you'll find a similar pattern that you might recognize. So it started way back in 2009 when I went to further education college here in the UK, and I first started learning Microsoft SQL. Then in 2010, I went to university where we started to learn Oracle SQL, and I had this big fat textbook we had to work through where I learned all about joins and all those complicated things. Then in 2015, while I was working as a graduate at the Japanese IT firm Fujitsu, I first learned about the open source SQL library, Postgres, or PostgreSQL, as I discovered by the founder, it's pronounced, the other week. BBC, a first taste of cloud-hosted software as a service, or SaaS, and more specifically, database as a service with Amazon's RDS, or relational database system. Spotted the pattern? Yep, nothing but SQL and relational databases all the way. But in 2021, on the 1st of June specifically, I started my dream job as a developer advocate at MongoDB. And I actually learned all about our products, the document database model, and the MongoDB's wider developer data platform. And I realized that actually, hey, SQL and relational databases are not the only way. And so, we're at this point here in 2021. And if we actually think about where the world was in 2021, what you'll probably think of most of all is one of these. In the height of 2021, we were all stuck in the lockdowns and pandemic, and so mobile apps were becoming more and more common, and we were just using them constantly to communicate with our loved ones. So mobile experiences are expected but difficult to deliver. Today, mobile impacts every industry, whether we're looking to order groceries, maybe look for our next house, schedule a doctor's appointment, try to do some banking, whatever it is, we can confidently say that good old phrase, hey, there's an app for that. And the pandemic did nothing but accelerate this trend. And in fact, a record number of new apps were released in app stores in 2021. But if we actually go back as far as 2020, BCG said that 70% of these digital transformation initiatives normally linked to mobile app creation will fail. And imagine this number now after the app surge of 2021. So it's as important as ever to consider a good app experience. Successful apps need to meet modern user expectations. And this kind of, when you think about what a good app experience is for a user, it kind of boils down to three basic fundamentals. A fast, reactive UI. The UI needs to update accordingly. The app needs to be stable. We need it to not crash, because frankly, if it's crashing a lot, our users are just going to stop using it. It needs to have reliable real-time data. Data needs to stay up to date, whether that's between our own devices. Maybe you've got something like a spreadsheet open on your phone and in your laptop, and you want them to stay the same. As you make a change in one place, you want it to appear in another. But not just across devices, but across active users as well. As more and more of us try and connect, we need to know that the data that we're sharing between us is consistent. And of course, the other and big one, always on experiences. As restrictions are lifted and we travel more, or we all just work from home more and find that our internet is, bandwidth is restricted as all of our neighbors are at home as well, having that experience where the app is always on, or at least can function when the internet is reliable or intermittent, is as important as ever. So when it comes to trying to address this problem, on the surface, developers kind of see it as kind of a simple solution. It's very common for teams to try and solve this themselves because of the fact that it seems simple on the surface. You have two sources of data, and you update both back and forth using REST APIs or GraphQL in between. How hard can it be, right? Well, sync solutions are actually complex and rarely unique, and delivering on all these requirements is also complex. The REST API and GraphQL calls need a connection. So what happens if the device is offline? Does request hang, timeout? What is the UI in your app showing at this point when it's timing out? What happens if the request fails halfway through as a user is on a train and it goes through a tunnel? These are things that you need to think about. And actually what starts out as a simple API call turns into an extremely complex piece of code to handle the numerous edge cases, but also the reality of doing it all at scale. And edge cases are hard to program against. How do you even reliably test requests failing in unpredictable ways without spending the time and effort to build out an extensive testing framework? Maybe that's a possibility for some, but for startups and small to medium enterprise, for example, absolutely not. And this is even before you start thinking about designing a system that does this in a way that minimizes data usage and battery drain, and handles conflict resolution when this data from these sources that's supposed to be consistent starts to, differentiate from each other. But as I mentioned earlier, reinventing the wheel is complex and risky, but these scenarios aren't unique. So why reinvent the wheel? Goals are missed. You're pushing users to use alternative solutions. Resources are wasted with developers spending time reinventing and maintaining the wheel, and we're all sick of that. Plus, data is siloed. Analytics of the data can't be trusted if you can't rely on consistency between your two data stores. Ooh. So what can be done to address this? Well, this is where MongoDB Developer Data Platform comes in, and Realm. Good old Realm. You might have heard of. Realm has been around for a while. The Developer Data Platform is the easiest way to build and scale mobile apps. And as I mentioned, Realm's been around for a while, but it actually started out life as its own product before being acquired by MongoDB a few years ago. And in the words of the British DJ Fatboy Slim, we've come a long, long way together. Back from those days of Realm just being a database, it's now so much more than that. And you can kind of break it down into consisting of three things. You've got the Realm mobile database, which is a lightweight embedded database. It's object-oriented, that sits on a device to make sure the app is always available. And it's fast as well, regardless of network connections. Plus it has SDKs for all the popular languages, including Swift, Kotlin, and of course, our absolute favorite, .NET. Only framework and language you need, right? C# all the way. Then we've also got Atlas Device Sync. This allows you to sync data between your Realm mobile database and the cloud. And sync takes care of keeping this data updated across users, devices, and the backend. And you can even partition this data between users, or even more specifically, with flexible sync, you can do it on use cases. For example, imagine that you've got a patient record. There might be bits of information that patient document, which are only relevant to certain use cases. So at certain points, depending on who's looking at the document, it might be that you just want the doctors to see the doctor's notes. The patient doesn't need to see all the medical side of it. Let's be honest, everyone always says, don't Google medical things, right? So Sync takes care of keeping it all up to date and even partitioning it in a way that you want. And then underpinning all this is MongoDB Atlas, our fully managed cloud database using the document data model, all on the back end. So you can stop worrying about scaling as the app usage changes. It's all managed for you. And by using one technology to manage your tech stack, you can help consolidate and simplify things, giving you less to worry about and more time to focus on the things that we love, development and innovation. So Realm, in partnership with Atlas and Atlas Device Sync, just makes your life easier. It's an object-oriented database, so it uses a JSON-like structure that's already recognizable and readable by so many developers. You know, if you come from the C family of programming languages, including C#, we all know and love JSON, right? Then Sync handles changes in network connectivity to keep your data consistent. Plus, it's all fully managed. You can focus on what you love best, writing code. Woohoo! But actually, there's more, because Device Sync is actually part of a wider suite of services within Atlas and the developer data platform that we can take advantage of in our mobile apps. So Atlas App Services is a bunch of fully managed cloud services to allow you to build and run production-ready mobile and web applications with Atlas without the overhead of management and setting it up. We have functions. These define and execute JavaScript functions to build APIs, integrate with cloud services and more. And actually, fun story, when I first started at MongoDB last year, the first function I wrote called to the Open Weather Service API to fetch the weather for the members of my team. And then I used the function to take that information and convert it to relevant emojis for the weather. So hooked it up to a webhook, synced it with a Slack bot. And so I can now sit in Slack with my team. We can do a / command in Slack and actually get back the weather for all our teams. So functions can be fun. We've also got triggers. They automatically run code in response to database changes, user events, or at preset intervals. And something super important and close to all our hearts, authentication. You can configure one or more authentication providers that works for you, whether that's OAuth 2, Apple ID, Microsoft, of course, Google, Facebook, whatever you need, you can configure it for your applications. And so, you know, and this is just a selection of the services that fall under Atlas App Services. You know, there's so much more to it than just these three here and Device Sync. And so there's so much more power that's just waiting for you to harness it in your projects. Well, this is all great, and you might be sat there like I was when I first learned about all this stuff, keen to get started and play around. But you might be wondering, well, Luce, MAUI's fairly new, right? It's only been in GA for a few months. Now, MAUI's not new, you know, we've all been following it like a trusted friend for a long time, but it's only been in GA for a few months. So can I take advantage of Realm, Atlas, and all of its benefits? Well, I'm pleased to say that Realm already supports MAUI. Woohoo! And that's awesome. You can get started today using MAUI. So let's see this in action, right? We've talked about it. We've talked about some of the problems of trying to manage mobile devices and offline sync and stuff. And we've heard that Realm and the MongoDB developer data platform can make this easier for you. But let's actually see some fun stuff, including some powerful features I haven't even told you about yet. So let's switch over to an Android emulator. In true Peter style, here's what I prepared earlier. For security reasons, I've just filled out my password so that no one can try and copy it. But you know, you can see here that we have two simple buttons, log in and create account. If we've wanted to create an account with these details, we'll just click create account. But since I've already got one, we're just going to click log in. And as you can see, you know, beautiful work of art here. What more can you want? So I'm just going to go ahead and log in. I'm of course screen sharing, so everything's going to take a bit longer today. But look, boom, there we are. We are logged in, and you can see that I've already got a list of tasks here. Sweet. So we can add a new task if we want. So we can do give a great talk. And that adds it. Nice. So we've got it here, and maybe, oh, we go, we've got duplicates, so we can swipe. Now, I am no UI developer. there's a, I think it was this week announced a UI challenge around MAUI UI. So I think I need to get in on that and improve it because the line heights are wrong. But take my word for it, this button is supposed to be a delete button, but it's there. So, you know, use the swipe view, but then we can even go into it and change one of them. So we can click on give a great talk, get rid of the keyboard. We can change the status to say, well, giving a great talk's in progress, right? Save it. And there we have it. It's in progress. And if we take the app offline completely, so there's no signal, the data's off completely, we can still interact with it. So we can even say that, hey, I said hi to you, hi everyone. So now that's complete. The app's offline, but it's still working. Woohoo! Let's just put that back to having signal again. Nice. So who doesn't love that, right? So we've seen all that. But how is that actually put together? You know, demos are all good, right? But we're developers, we love a bit of code. So if I come into good old Visual Studio here, I'm going to leave the app running for now, but that's okay. We are in Visual Studio, so let's just start taking a look at how we put this together. So we have this login page view model here, and thanks to James's great YouTube videos, this actually uses source generators. So, you know, there's a lot less boilerplate code, and I love it. But we can start off by having a look here at this create account. So all it does is go and get a Realm app instance from our app. So in our app.xaml.cs, I created a Realm app client. So we can just fetch it and say, hey, you know, register this user with the email and password that we entered. And this actually goes ahead and we can see what it does. So here we are in Atlas, which was also what we call our UI for interacting. We have other tools, of course, but for now, we're just going to stick to the browser. So when we create a new user, it triggers this on new user. And then this on new user trigger calls a linked function called create new user document. And then it's just a simple JavaScript function. All it's doing is taking in that user object, then getting our user collection from our house moving assistant cluster database. Then inside that user is just inserting a one document with those details passed in. And just like that, we have a new user created. Shiny. So that's how you create an account. And login will look pretty similar. We get the user by logging in instead of creating an account. And if the user comes back and isn't null, then we just go to our main page. And that main page, of course, is with a list of tasks. So if we have a look at our view model here, it's, you know, pretty straightforward stuff again. We have an observable collection of moving tasks. And then we have an initialized realm. So that just goes ahead and sets some stuff up. So we've got this config where we're passing in the current user's ID because we want to partition this data. We only want to see the tasks belonging to us. And then we go ahead and, you know, grab that user. And then if the user is not null, we simply populate that list of moving tasks. And all the realm code really is just saying fetch all moving tasks, put them in a list and put them in reverse order. And you can see here that we're passing in this moving task model. Well, if we have a look at this model, it's just a plain old C# class object as you'd expect. It's got properties and getters and setters. And the only difference is that it extends realm object. Because realm doesn't require any kind of ORM or like data access objects or anything like that, it just takes care of it for you. All you need to do is extend realm object and you can just carry on using your model object here and it will just use the properties and convert them to fields in your document for you. No need to worry about it, it will just handle it for you. And then some of these properties here you can see have just got some attributes which come from the MongoDB library. So we've set the primary key here. An object ID is a special data type of MongoDB. It looks a bit like a GUID. We don't need to worry about it when we handle this object, but every object and document needs one, so we just generate one. And of course, it's the primary key. And then you can see these map to attributes. All this is just saying is that, hey, in the document, I want it to look slightly different than I do, you know, name-wise. I want it lowercase rather than capitalized. But it's just a model that we can start using. Nice. So we've got this, you know, we've got this realm initialized. We've started to populate that list now. But as you saw, we did more things with it. So one of the things we did was add a new task. And again, that's super, super simple. We just create a new moving task object, passing it in the details that we want to populate it with, add it to our local list, and then Realm uses transactions. So all we do is start a write transaction, and inside of that transaction, just say, hey, add this task to Realm. And it will take care of converting that object that you've just created into the document with all the fields. Sweet. Then you saw us also, I showed that you could delete them. I just need to fix the UI. But, you know, scroll wheel excitement. But if we have a look, delete looks pretty similar. Again, we just write things in a write transaction, but this time instead of add, we just remove. And then edit task is a fun one, because as you saw, it loads a separate page. So what we do is we take advantage of Shell's navigation system and just pass it this object which contains our our task as a moving task, so that we can pass objects into our next view model. So then if we come into this view model, you'll see here that we've got the query property attribute just so that we can grab that moving task that we passed in. And then we just have some properties here. And then there's some fun stuff happening. So you would have seen on the page that we had a picker. Now, thanks to the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit, I was able to take advantage of event to command behavior. So with our picker, I was able to just say, hey, there's an event, do an event command behavior. When you trigger the event selected index changed, call this picker selected item change command and pass it in this command parameter, which is just the index of the item that we selected. Then that means that here in this method, we've passed in that selected item index, and then we just do a simple switch case. We set up these details that we can save them later, and then we just say, hey, depending on what item you selected in the list, update that moving task object with the correct status. Or sorry, update the status with that correct task status that comes from an enumerable in the moving task model. Sweet. And then, yeah, as you notice, all that does is just update that new status. It doesn't actually save anything. And so that's where this command comes in. So we just set up our config again and just grab an instance of Realm. Realm works on single thread, so you just grab an instance each time. The performance will not be impacted, don't worry. And then we have another write transaction, and this has, oh my God, 3 lines, not 1. So because we're updating an existing document and not creating a new one, first we need to actually grab the task that we want to update. And by doing that, we're just calling find, saying that, hey, it's of type moving task and it's got the ID of our task that we want to find. And then we can just update its name and status. And because it's inside this write transaction, it's going to take care of, updating it automatically for you. And then we just go back a page. Sweet. And it's as simple as that. We've been able to, initialize it, add the tasks, delete the tasks, edit them, super simple. And I want to take a minute to show you an extra bit in the app that I've not shown you that I think is super cool. I want to introduce you to MongoDB charts. So we'll just go back a page a second. So MongoDB charts allows you to create dashboards with charts in them to visualize your data. All you need to do is point them at your data source and it'll take care of the rest. So if we have a look at the dashboard that I've already got for this, you'll see that we've actually got a moving task status dashboard. It's just a circle graph that just allows me to picture how many tasks are in what state. And, you can even add a chart if you want to. All you need to do is pick your data source. So in this case, it might be moving task. Pick what type of graph you want. Note geospatial here. So if you're following one of the amazing .NET MAUI workshops where they use monkey data, which has locations of the monkeys, you could actually store that in Realm and then say, or Atlas, and then actually say, hey, using this monkey location data, make me a map. So that's super cool. But one of the things that you can do when you've got this dashboard or you've got an individual chart is that you can actually embed it. So if we have a look here, you can see that we can just make an iframe. We can pick some, what theme we want, width and height, and then it gives us some iframe code. So we can actually do some fun stuff with that. We can actually go in and I closed the page I wanted. We want that one. So we can actually just go in and create a web view. Now, you could just do web view source and put a URL in, but because I wanted more granular control over the size and shape and everything, I wanted to use the iframe. So all I've done is just embed some HTML here inside my XAML file that just embeds that iframe. And guess what? If we go in and click the stats button, it will think about it because I'm sharing my screen and bandwidth is never fun. It will think about it. It will then start to load it. And then in 2, 1, boom, there you go. Just like that. With just a bit of embedded HTML with an iframe, you've got beautiful visualizations in your data. You don't need to do any fancy charting work. And that's super cool. And, you know, that's just a simple app. You know, it was actually inspired by Maddie. So Maddie, if you're watching, thanks for giving me the idea to make this app. So, you know, that's the app. And we've actually seen how this was made. But what future plans have I got? Well, there's quite a few things I actually want to do with the power of Realm and MAUI together, because I'm super excited about both. So one of the things I want to do is migrate an existing Realm and Xamarin Forms app into MAUI, Blood Pressure Tracker, which is just an app I created to track blood pressure readings and pulse, and you can even use charts to view trends of how your blood pressure has changed over time. And I also want to migrate an old Xamarin Forms and Cognitive Services app. A few years ago, I created a demo app called EmotiPal, which just used cognitive services to read emotion in faces and sentiment in text. I want to move it over to using MAUI so that we can start to, you know, not only take advantage of the wonders of MAUI, but also use Realm as well to store history. So you can start seeing, well, I don't know, for each user, what sentiment maybe is it that comes up the most that you maybe struggle to read, and start to see a history of the most common sentiment or emotions that the user struggles with. Super, super exciting. And, you know, hopefully watching this, you've also been inspired with some fun ideas of what you could do with Realm and MAUI. So, you know, drop messages in the chat, reach me on Twitter at LuceCarter1. You know, please let me know what are your ideas, what cool things do you want to do with this stuff, because I would love to hear it. I would love to shout about it. You know, there's lots of stuff that we as a company would love to do to shine a spotlight on what you do with our product. So, you know, get inspired. So that whistle stop tour has had to come to an end. You know, I could talk to you for ages about more of our products, but, you know, we have a time limit, right? But, you know, mobile apps more than ever need to meet your expectations to succeed. They need to be stable, consistent, and always on. You know, Realm's developer data platform with MongoDB just makes it so much easier. And, you know, Realm supports MAUI, so we can surf our way to data storage victory. So if you want to learn more, feel free to just take a quick picture of this quickly. I know we're short on time. It will take you to this gist. You've got links to the slides. You've got links to the GitHub repos. If you want to ruin my awful UI, please feel free. We've also got MongoDB University, which is our free platform, community forums where you can get help and whatever, Realm.io for more blogs and stuff, and even our developer GitHub where developer relations writes all sorts of stuff. As I said, I could talk for ages, but hopefully that's everything you need. And don't hesitate to reach out if you've got more questions. Boom, way to you go, James, all yours.